5 tips for beginner tax lien investors coming your way in this video right now. So tip number 1 is to clearly know the difference between tax lien states and tax deed states. So as a beginner tax lien investor, you're obviously going after the interest rate of 18 to 36%. Now this rate does vary depending on where you are, but the higher, the better, right? So that interest generally accrues every single month depending on the state you are in. So tip number 1 is find out, what state you're in. Are you in a tax lien state or a tax deed state? From there, the second tip is going to be to build your war map, basically your action plan, okay? So always have an action plan for investing in tax liens. And the simplest action plan that you can have is to first figure out where and when the tax lien sale is. So a lot of these tax lien sales happen, well, mostly online these days. Now, a little pro tip 2.2 is some of the smaller counties in the US will sometimes have some of the best tax lien sales because they're not as popular and as easy to access over the internet. In fact, there are sometimes in some of the smaller counties, back in the day, they would just lie the tax liens on the table and you could just go in and basically shuffle through them and buy them. Now, most lien sales these days are online, so it's important for you to know the rules and regulations, all right? So that brings us to tip number 3. Now, before we get into tip number 3, my name's Dustin Hahn. I've been doing tax liens and deeds now for probably about 20 years. I've done hundreds of these things all over the US, and we help folks get started and learn how to make 18 to 36% interest with tax liens and buy tax deed property for as little as $50 or up to 90% below market value. So subscribe if you want to learn more about tax liens. So coming back to it, make sure to understand the rules. So the fun thing about tax liens is the fact that not a lot of people are familiar with the rules when it comes to how to do this. So for example, if I were to say to you, I'm going to flip a house, remember, flipping a house is basically flipping pretty much anywhere. Everybody knows how, the concept of flipping, there's TV shows on it and all that sort of stuff. You don't generally see shows on tax lien and deed flipping, and here's why. So this is actually a big insider, not a secret, but there's no incentive for third parties to promote tax liens and deeds because they're not allowed to. So for example, when you look at traditional real estate, you have mortgage brokers in there, you have realtors, you have all sorts of people who can basically make a fee off of facilitating this transaction. So when it comes to tax liens, it is different because every county runs things a little bit differently. So imagine it like a game of Monopoly, right? You have your board, you understand how it works, and then basically you take that board to the county and then you ask for the rules on that specific county's tax lien proceedings, and then away you go. So generally these days, those rules are going to be online, so you'll study the rules and do your research. So now, let's go on to the next tip. Tip number 4, very important. So diversify yourself when getting into tax liens at first. Now, what I love about liens is you can start relatively cheap. You could go within the next couple hours to, say, the Arizona website for Maricopa County and buy an over-the-counter lien. So I recommend doing that and getting familiar with the process so that you can kind of diversify yourself. Maybe buy a lien on a house, buy a lien on some land, buy a commercial lien. When you're getting started, start cheap. Now, one of the last tips is, first off, figure out what your goal and intention is. So I talk to a lot of folks and they're like, hey, Dustin, I want to make $100,000 a year with tax liens, okay? And my second question is all right, well, what do you have set aside for real estate investing? And they'll say, I have $5,000. And then my question to them is well, it's going to be hard to make $100,000 per year, making even 18 to 36% interest on $5,000. See where I'm coming from? So it's important to figure that out, right? If you want to get started, it's a great way to kind of diversify. But if you're only dealing with, 2, 3, 4, $5,000, then you're probably going to want to start with tax deeds where you can actually buy the property for the back taxes. Man, I've had huge home runs with tax deed sales. One of my first deals was 40 acres of land in Washington for $4,200. And it was one of the best feelings in the world. you know, we went to the auction. And actually, I'll go on another little tip here. So before the auction, this one guy was like talking trash about the property that we wanted to bid on. And sure enough, this guy was actually bidding on the property as well, because he was just trying to like screw us over. And in the end, what happened is the auction went, it closed, and this guy couldn't come up with the money. And what most people didn't realize is there's a second auction that happened after for the people who couldn't bring forward their money. So they had about an hour to, bring that money to the auction. So we picked this thing up at the second auction, and then we went and sold that thing for $20,000. So it is a very exciting business to get into. You're in the right place. If you want to learn more, make sure to subscribe. Ask a question in the comments. Like whatever your tax lien question is, please ask it in the comments, because I'm going to start making video series basically answering your questions. Now, if you really want to get started, I have a completely free mini course on tax lien investing. So I used to sell my book. This is the best-selling book called The ABCs of Tax Lien and Deed Investing, 100 tax lien facts. And basically I have a little mini course for free at the bottom of this page, and the link if you want to go check it out. It's totally free. Go ahead, check that out. My way of giving back. From there, I got another video pinned in the comment, which is a lot of fun, and it is called Tax Deed Horror Stories. So some of the things that can go terribly wrong. So I suggest you educate yourself, watch some videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.